Hello, and welcome to another episode. So, if you're watching this, hopefully on the day it's releasing, it's the day that Turok 3 Remastered is out, which is great. I'm a huge Turok fan, massive Turok fan. So, we're talking about Turok. Now, Turok was initially released in 1997 for the Nintendo 64, but actually predates consoles themselves. Turok Son of Stone was originally a comic released around the 50s or 60s, and over the years has had new iterations, new installments, has just generally popped up in some form or another over the years. And you know what? They've mostly been okay, but the one we're looking at is for Acclaim. Now, Acclaim Entertainment are a fucking weird company. They were a fucking weird company. They developed like a whole load of really strange games with very, very weird marketing material. I'll get onto that later, especially in relation to Turok. But they initially developed, or more accurately, their subsidiary Iguana Entertainment developed Turok Dinosaur Hunter. This game released kind of around the same time that Half-Life did. So the first Half-Life comes out, kind of redefines narrative in games, personally poorly, but whatever. I'm not a huge Half-Life fan and never will be. But Turok was something different. Turok was a strange amalgamation of kind of modern style shooters that Half-Life popularized to an extent, and Doom style shooters. It did not run well. It still doesn't run well. Turok fog is a very real concern. So the distance that you can see in Turok Dinosaur Hunter is pretty atrocious. It's very, very bad. But it is probably one of the single best first-person shooters on the entire N64, and as a console, it's one I've bought a surprising number for. I think that's largely helped by things like GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, and this, especially the Turok series. I went looking, and I found them, because they're very good. I do not own any of the Game Boy versions, and I never will, because I don't care. But mainline Turok games. Turok Dinosaur Hunter. Very solid game. Probably one of the first, probably the first and one of the most prominent first-person shooters to feature a Native American protagonist. I'm not sure how accurate the name Talset is, but yeah, it could be more, it could be less. It could be more accurate to their culture. I really highly doubt it is, to be fair. But considering it's based off of comics by Valiant. So Valiant Comics were a comic publisher in the 90s. They were bought out by Acclaim, and Acclaim started making games on their properties. Now, they'd acquired Turok. They went, let's make a Turok game for the N64. Why not? Sod it. Nintendo. Done. They're looking for games. Sod it. So we got Turok from Iguana Entertainment. Very, very solid game. Very, very solid. Very big fan. Then we got the follow-up. Turok 2. Turok 2. Probably the only black cartridge I own on the N64. I haven't really found any others. From what I'm aware, there's another black cartridge variant for a Turok game also on the N64, but we'll get into that. Turok 2. Turok 2 kind of took the story in a different direction, actually had one, outside of kill bad man with jungle mask and robot dinosaurs, and instead had more of a focus around Joshua Fireseed. So Joshua Fireseed is kind of the, if you really want to get into it, one of the two quintessential Turoks. You've got Talset on one hand, and you've got Joshua Fireseed. Joshua Fireseed, decidedly more of a character, decidedly more grounded, decidedly more of a person, really. He does begin in medias res, in the middle of a city being invaded by dinosaurs, but yeah, what are you gonna do? It's an N64 game. They weren't big on the story. Turok 2 did add a multiplayer mode. It's not the most robust. I wouldn't even say it's the best in the series, because it isn't by any stretch of the imagination. But it's okay enough. It's fine. It's not amazing. But yeah. Turok 2. I don't have a lot to say about Turok 2. I've beaten it a couple of times. I'm going to be honest with you. The Primogen, horrible looking guy. Like, sorry. Horrible looking dude. Really unsettling face when you're fighting him in his boss fight. It, like, borderline uncanny valley. Freaked me out for a while, actually. Just the dead-eyed stare. Fitting, when you read his character in the comics. If you're going to read the comics, you can find them online. They're very expensive, actually, for comics, but since they were a limited release for a failed comic comic publisher, the prices are going to be up there. However, Turok wasn't really a case of... wasn't really a series that chased trends too much, but they did fall into the trap of late 90s, hey, Unreal Tournament and Quake 3 Arena are a thing, and we got Turok Rage Wars. This is the only boxed N64 game I have. It should tell you why. It's pretty ugly to look at, but you know what? I like this game. It's very solid. I feel it could have done with the maps maybe being bigger, maybe throwing in bots as well as up to 4 players. Like 4 players plus bot really would have benefited from that. I think it would have been better. But as it is, it's very small claustrophobic map. It's kind of like if GoldenEye had bots, but not as good as GoldenEye, if you see what I mean. GoldenEye, despite its somewhat primitive multiplayer by today's standards, it still has an element of, holy crap, this is unusually fun. Turok Rage Wars, by contrast, I wouldn't even say is the go-to for multiplayer in this series. It's one of them, but it's not the go-to, because Turok Rage Wars was followed by Turok 3. Now, this video is in honour of Turok 3 coming out today. Hopefully, that'd be great. Another great remaster by Night Dive. Big fan of those guys. Every time they release something on limited run, I buy it. So fingers crossed. I am filming this a week in advance, so I don't know if they're doing a limited release version of Turok 3, but if they do, it's mine. It's going to be mine. But Turok 3. Turok 3 is a weird one in that it has a story. A very cinematic story. It's got world building, it's got lore, it's got backstory, it's got... apologies. It's got all these weird little bits and details in it that are very ambitious. The facial rigging in particular, for the time, on the Nintendo 64, stupidly good. Like, stupidly good. Better than some of the stuff that came out in the preceding generation. I mean, I've played, what the hell is it called? Evil Dead Regeneration? Or was it Fistful of Booms? It was one of the two. But Ash's mouth doesn't move in that game. At all. It doesn't move at all. Even in cutscenes. It's fucking weird. And the fact that Turok 3 came out probably a couple of years before that fucking game and had full facial animation on the N64 is bonkers. Now, that performance and that tech pushing does have its downsides. The game released at the tail end of the N64's lifespan. It was pushing the envelope in a lot of different ways, but at the same time, it was releasing on a dying console the year before the GameCube released. I mean, or the same year as the GameCube released, I can't exactly remember. So, not the smartest move from Acclaim. Not at all. Not the smartest move at all. Really, honestly, quite dumb. But Turok 3 does something interesting with its story. It goes, okay, you can play as Joseph Fireseed, 16-year-old brother of Joshua Fireseed, after he gets fucking murdered by wankers at the opening start of the game. So if you wanted a spoiler-free video, you're not getting it. Or you could play as the character that everybody actually played as, which was Danielle Fireseed, because she's a badass Native American lady who's fighting throughout the entire game, in spite of the fact that she was told the last time a lady had the title of Turok, she went mad and killed everybody. It's a nice change of pace. Prior to this, it was just a ream of dudes. Having a playable female Native American protagonist, big fan. Big fan. Huge fan. I have a weird affinity for games featuring protagonists of different skin tones and races to my own. I don't know why. I just do. Ones that always stick in my head are games like, say, Dishonored, Death of the Outsider, Deathloop, hell, one of my favourite shooters of all time as a Native American player, and that's Prey, which is sort of a spiritual successor to this, more so in its dabblings with aliens and Native American mythology and weird guns. Like the Cerebral Bore, which I can't believe we're like 11 and a half minutes into this and I haven't mentioned the Cerebral Bore. Turok's known for its weird weapons, and its pretty bonkers arsenal contains the Cerebral Bore, which is exactly as it sounds. It is a gun that fires a titchy tiny drill that drills into the skull of your enemy in the most visceral and painful way possible and then blows them up from the inside. And it's awesome. It's grim as shit, but it is very, very cool. It is very, very cool. Turok 3 took that step further and gave you two. I think one makes them completely explode, not just their heads. And the other one lets you control them, control enemies, which is very, very cool. And I'm a big fan of that. Turok 3 had, like, upgradable weapons as well. There's so much in this tiny-ass cartridge. Its multiplayer was probably the single most robust outside of maybe Rage Wars. And Rage Wars is fine. Rage Wars is a very, very good multiplayer shooter, but Turok 3 had a better one. Turok 3 had a much better one. For me, this was kind of where the series peaked. Unfortunately, that's always the case. There's always a point where the series is amazing and could not get any better, so we're going to ram it so hard into the ground it crashes our company. Now, that's not the only reason Acclaim died, but around this time, Acclaim were not doing very well. We've just come off the Nintendo 64, we've just come off of 3 relatively popular Turok games, and one that nobody ever remembers actually exists. Hopefully now that the remaster is out, that will change. Night Dive, if you could please include the multiplayer. If you could please include the multiplayer, that would be very nice. Hell, if you could remake Turok Rage Wars, that'd be even better. I will buy that as well. And I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding at all. I'm big time not kidding. Anyway. Acclaim wasn't doing well. Iguana by this point had been sort of rebranded and dissolved into... into... I can't remember what they were actually called. Doesn't matter. I think it's like... Acclaim Entertainment Austin or something like that. We got Turok Evolution, which is a very bad game. It is an extremely, extremely bad game. Which is a shame, because they went, right, okay, we're doing a prequel, and then we're going to do a second prequel. And those 2 prequels lead into Dinosaur Hunter. And it's going to be great, and it's going to be amazing, and blah, 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 blah. So they made Turok Evolution, and it's more of a de-evolution. There's less guns than before. The multiplayer is nowhere near as robust and fun as the previous 2 games in the series, and it was also the victim of Acclaim's really terrible marketing department. So, there's stories of this all over the internet, from the Shadow Man promotion, where they went, hey, Shadow Man, we will pay you to advertise Shadow Man on the tombstones of your loved ones. Okay. On the day that one of their racing games comes out. Oh, we'll pay for the speeding fines of any UK citizen who speeds on that day. Right. Okay. We're going to set off a load of explosions in this freaking town after 9/11, and we're going to make it like, oh yes, it's all part of a... Bad ideas across the board, and Turok Evolution was no different. They would pay up to £150,000 if you named your kid Turok. Now, people remember the marketing, but they also remember the games were shit. And that's what killed Acclaim. That's what stabbed them in the face. That's what dragged their bodies deep into the aether and left them there to die with the likes of Planet Moon and a lot of developers that had some really great ideas and terrible execution and terrible sales. And you know what? That's a shame. Because whilst I hate Turok Evolution, I think it is flat out one of the absolute worst games in the series. It's not as bad as the reboot. This was the last Turok game. The last one in 16 years. In 16 years, we haven't had a brand new Turok game. And they went, hey, Native American, The Lost World, a parallel dimension where the dregs of existence fall into and form into one cohesive blob of weird stuff and weird shit. No, we're not going to do any of that. We're going to turn it into Alien, except there's dinosaurs. And it sucks. Because this game is really bad. It's very, 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 very bad. Turok is a miserable game. Produced by Touchstone, developed by Propaganda Games, and you know what? I wish they hadn't touched it with a 10-foot barge pole. I wish they hadn't touched Turok with a 10-foot barge pole, because then we got the drought. We got years. We got over a decade of no new Turok, because that killed it. That killed Turok. That was it. That was nothing. And then those wonderful, magnificent bastards over at Night Dive went, hey, we like re-releasing old games. We like pumping out some of the stuff that Acclaim used to make. Let's re-release Turok 1. Because it's awesome. And you know what? It fucking is. Turok 1 is a beautifully redone game. I know this is just basically the PC version ported to Switch, but you know what? 1000% worth it. 1000% worth it. This is... Actually, it was this that really led me on to the series as a whole. Because I picked this up a couple of years ago. I'd had Turok. I'd had Dinosaur Hunter. I'd had Turok 2. I had the crap that was Evolution and Turok 2007. But this is what sold me on the franchise. This is really it. Night Dive's absolutely beautiful remaster of Turok 1. Swiftly followed by their even more beautiful remaster of Turok 2. Now, I'm not as big a fan of Turok 2 as I am of Turok 1, but I will appreciate that Turok 2 is a bigger game. It's more elaborate, it's more in-depth, more exciting, more whatever. But that brings us to today, the day you're watching this. Turok 3, hopefully, is out. Digitally. Whether or not it's being released by Limited Run, I don't know. But today is Turok 3 Day. Today is the day that we go, hey, remaster, hopefully with its multiplayer in it. If it's not in their Night Dive, I will be sad, and I will cry, and I will stalk you on X or whatever the hell it's called now and be very upset. But hopefully you're watching this. I want that game. Give me the multiplayer. That's all I want. I want 3's multiplayer and it's very good single player. And you know what? I'll be happy. I'll be happy as a Turok fan. I'm going to be picking up some of those comics because I want to read them. I want to read a lot of the lore and the backstory that's going on with this series because it's just... Even the games present it in an interesting manner, especially 3. So I have a sneaking suspicion that when we get to the end of the year and I'm going, my top 5 games of the year are, Turok 3 is going to be on there. It just is. It's just 100% going to be on there and I'm very, very excited for it. So, that's the Turok series. Probably my favourite series of shooters of kind of the 90s. Don't get me wrong, I like Half-Life and I like Unreal, but nothing quite tops blasting a dinosaur in the face with a shotgun, and especially not an automatic one with fire bullets. So, or jamming a cerebral bore into the head of a sentient dinosaur and watching its head explode. But here we are. That's the end of the video, guys. I'm not too sure what I'm going to do next week. We'll see. But remember, Night Dive are amazing. We love you, Night Dive. Go pick up Turok 3, and I will see you guys next week.